Welcome to another episode of the House Huddle Podcast. Here are your hosts, Rob Schwartz and Justin Onayemi, two Bears fans who decided talking into a microphone was better than shouting at their television.
Welcome into the House Huddle Podcast.
Huddle up!
I was a little late on that one.
It's okay. It's okay.
We are here with episode 49, one away from the big 5-0.
That's right.
We have, hopefully, if everything goes well, we have a special episode 50 with a special guest.
Ooh.
And we will also announce our giveaway.
Nice.
And what you're going to need to do in order to qualify for that giveaway. It's very easy. Very easy. I'll give you a hint. If you hit the subscribe button now, you're already on your way. Okay? Just hit the subscribe button. Already on your way. Episode 49 is the...
It's got to be Tremaine Edmonds.
Tremaine Edmonds episode, yeah.
He's new, but we have high hopes.
And we've seen enough of him to know that he's a legit NFL player.
Absolutely.
I think he could actually outshine Roquan in the system.
Be interesting.
Yeah, it's better. He's better suited for it anyway.
For that coverage and like a cover two.
Yes.
So, but we decided to look up other 49s just to make sure.
Yeah, it's a weird number.
It is. You found one though.
Yeah, well, I was listing off names and you threw this one out there, and I think for good reason. For anyone out there who is a fan of the show knows that we're a fan of New Girl.
Yes.
And we got to give Winston Fanable
and we did. I thought this would be like some crazy old player. He played for the 2011 Bears.
Yeah.
And I do not recall him.
No clue who he is. 2011 Bears. He played in 12 games, had 8 combined tackles. Probably maybe on special teams.
But honorable mention because he is not only named after one character on New Girl, but actually two. Spoiler alert if you're only in season 4 or 5 of New Girl.
Yeah, I don't think that matters. It's already off Netflix.
I know.
Now it's been moved to Hulu.
It's on Hulu, which means I don't watch it because it's got ads.
Yeah, I still do. Yeah. But apparently he played for the Alouettes, right? So there's like a Mark Trestman. Wasn't he the Alouettes coach at one point?
Was he? I thought he had a different Canadian team.
I don't think so.
I don't know.
I don't remember. Anyway, so we are going to make this a 2-part show. Tonight is going to be all about the offense. And Justin came up with this one again. He came up with the last one too.
Are you just saying that because it tanked?
No, I think we did finally hit 100 views. Well, I know it's the down time of the year, but come on, guys. This is the Bears. Just give it a listen.
So actually, we mentioned something a long time ago in a previous episode that was this idea.
Yes.
So basically what we're going to do today is just looking at the offense, and then we'll cover the defense in a future episode. But we're going to kind of look at each room, being like the quarterback room, the running back room, the receiver room, O-line, tight end, although sometimes tight end is with O-line. But for this, we're going to separate them into their own room, and we're going to compare what that room was last year on the 2022 Bears and what we think about the room this year on the 2023 Bears. Hopefully.
I don't want to give anything away.
Let's not give it away.
But yeah, I mean, the hope is obviously that they're better, right?
Yeah. So obviously we're comparing results we know to the unknown and on paper, but we're still going to project what we think of all those different various position groups. But before we do that, I kind of want to cover an NFL story with a tie to the Bears, because we're going to talk about the running backs, specifically Josh Jacobs and Saquon Barkley, who did not sign their franchise tag at the deadline. And so now there's talks of, will there be a holdout, trade possibilities, various things like that. And it came connected to the Bears because people were like, oh, Josh Jacobs to the Bears.
Which goes back to the whole Dalvin Cook to the Bears.
Just watch that episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, just watch that episode, and that's our thoughts on Josh Jacobs. Very good running back, but it's not a need.
Nope.
I actually
have a pretty loaded room, actually.
And for what they're paying the people in that room,
right,
and what you'd have to pay him, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
No.
But that brings up the whole big question of what's going on with running backs, The really good running backs. I mean, Josh Jacobs led the league in rushing yards last year and can catch out of the backfield. He's a complete back. And yet, when it comes time to pay him, I mean, he's still on his rookie deal.
Yep.
Comes time to pay him, the Raiders don't feel the need.
Nope.
With Saquon, the Giants don't feel the need. Now, granted, Saquon had multiple pretty severe injuries.
Correct.
There's a lot of mileage on both these guys. And basically teams are kind of saying, well, we're just going to pop in a younger guy for less money. It's kind of a devastating thing, though, when you have guys who are Pro Bowlers, all pro, leading the league, and not getting paid accordingly.
Yeah, so we saw a couple big contracts back in 2021. It was the Nick Chubb deal. And I can't recall if Aaron Jones signed in 2020 or 2021, but he was another bigger deal. It just seems like, and I've talked about it. I've called the linebacker position, the off the ball linebacker position, the running back of the defense. And I wasn't willing to give Roquan Smith over $18 million a year because it just didn't seem like it made sense from a financial allocation standpoint. Now, teams are devaluing that running back position. We're not seeing a true 3-down back on most teams. Most teams are, using at least 2 backs, sometimes 3. It's one of those positions like, do I really want, if I was a young kid, like, do I really want to be a running back? Because I'm probably not going to get paid. And the reason is because GMs are now getting their rookies. They're getting them on a 4-year deal. Let's say it's a first-round pick. You're getting them on 5 years. You franchise tag them for 1 to 2 years. You have them for anywhere from 5, 6 to 7 years. You kick them to the curb and you draft another one. And that's just how they're doing it.
Well, it doesn't seem like either one of those teams has the next guy just sitting there ready to go, which is why they offered them the franchise tag.
Right.
Now many of the running backs, Derrick Henry, Austin Eckler, McCaffrey, are coming out and talking on social media about how unfair this is. And I think with Eckler, he's even trying to bring up collusion as a possibility.
Well, if you think about it, Dalvin Cook hasn't signed. Ezekiel Elliott hasn't signed. Those are 2 pretty established named running backs. Ezekiel has fallen off a little bit, but Dalvin Cook really hasn't outside of his injuries. His yards per carry could be better, obviously, but why aren't they signing with teams? Because they're not getting the money that they want, right?
You brought up something where you look at a guy's rookie deal and it's going to be 4 years, possibly 5 years. And by then, especially if this is a guy you've been utilizing heavily, the tread, the wear and tear is there, and maybe the value isn't seen to pay these guys big money. But is this something that they should be trying to collectively bargain, where maybe running backs' rookie deals are shorter and incentive-based?
I'm glad that you actually brought that up. I'm actually working on an article right now for Bear Goggles On, and that's one of the ideas that I had as well. There needs to be a special rule for the rookie contract for running backs, and in my opinion, it needs to be a 2-year deal, 3 years, like a 3rd-year option instead of a 5th-year option.
Makes sense. Okay.
And maybe you extend that for the whole draft and not just the first round, or maybe you do it for the first 4 rounds of the whole draft. And if you extend, or if you exercise that 3rd-year option, you're only allowed to franchise tag them 1 year instead of 2. That puts them on the market within 4 years instead of 5, 6, 7. Gives them a chance to actually earn some money.
And they're at their athletic prime, right when they're coming in for their first time to cash in.
Or their team that they're playing for has to pay them.
Right. But where I added the incentive part is it should be based on volume, because that's what's hurting them in negotiations is, well, this guy already has so many carries, he's taken so many hits.
Right.
Well, that should escalate their pay while it's happening.
Right.
And I know, I shouldn't say I know, but I imagine there are all sorts of incentives on deals already.
Oh, for sure.
For volume, you hit a certain number of carries.
Look at the Odell Beckham contract. That's a giant part of that is incentive based.
Same thing with Hopkins.
Yes.
He gets a certain number of catches. his salary goes up, that type of thing. But with running backs, I feel like it should just be a guaranteed thing. And I don't know how that works, but that's what I'm saying. They need to probably go deep into like players union, collective bargaining. But would other positions want the same thing, or does the rest of the league kind of look at like, we feel bad for our running backs?
Of course they're going to want the same thing because they want a piece of the pie. And that goes to the problem of, we look at the NBA and their association, or their players association, negotiated, in my opinion, a better deal because players get a much larger piece of the revenue than you do in the NFL. And the NFL is the giant sport right now, right? Like, I don't see any team or any other leagues coming close to them anytime soon. But our billionaire owners have decided that, and the NFLPA is partly to blame too, because they agreed to it, that they're not getting that big chunk. And maybe within the next negotiation, things need to change.
I mean, comparing those two sports, though, you look at the roster size, and
Sure,
that's a huge reason why. Because if you're the 53rd guy on a 53-man roster compared to the 15th guy on a 15-man roster,
sure,
I think there's more negotiation power throughout all the players and getting all the players on board. Because that's what I'm saying is like,
that's what
we're talking running
time.
back specific thing here. You just mentioned it. The linebackers, they feel they're the running backs of the defense.
And I don't know if you recall, but when they did new negotiations last time, it was the lower paid salaried players that were willing to cross the line sooner than the guys like JJ Watt, who, have a ton of money, but we're trying to advocate for more for the, position for the players themselves.
Well, and that goes to also, these guys only get checks on game day or game day checks.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that could come into play when it gets to that point where you're almost at a labor pause.
So the last thing I wanted to talk about, because it was a huge thing on Twitter, it's still going around right now, and I got to give a shout out to Adam Patrick of the Viking Age with Fansided. He's the one that came up with this graphic, and it might be a little bit skewed, a little bit lacking in context, but it's factual. But it's math works, but at the same time, you got to think about it overall. He put up a graphic that has now been shared by Des Bryant. It's seen 20 million views, a bunch of other places. People are using it on their podcast. Now we're talking about it, and it is the average salary of running backs is 1.81 million to the average salary of kickers at 2.26 million. We talked a little bit about this at pre-show, and obviously I led into it with the fact that there's context missing, right? 32 starting kickers in the NFL. Most teams don't have backups, right? 32 starting running backs in the NFL, but most have 2 to 3 backups. I'll let you speak to that real quick because I know you're on that side, and then I'm going to throw some other numbers at you.
So here's the thing. You talked about it already. There are 3, maybe 4 running backs on a team. We already led into this that even top guys aren't getting the salary they feel they deserve for what they do. So imagine that 4th running back. They're probably making close to the league minimum and are being thrown out there on special teams or in special packages. So you look at how many guys in the league are bringing the average down, that speaks somewhat to why that number would be skewed. And then just another little thing, and this is not me saying that this is fair, but if you look up all-time leading scorers on teams, oftentimes it's the kicker.
Well, especially when you're at the Chicago Bears.
Well, maybe I'm just talking as a longtime Bears fan. But kickers do matter. I know they get made fun of a lot for, it's like, are they even football players? They put up points.
Yeah.
They have to be hitting their extra points. Field goals sometimes are the difference between a win and a loss. So it's not that they should be completely devalued. And like you said, there's just one on every team. Most are probably making close to that average, and a few are making above that.
Yes. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I don't disagree with that. And obviously, so here's the raw numbers. And I looked this up earlier because, again, I'm working on this for an article. But there's 47 active kicker contracts right now in the NFL. 47. It's not a lot, right? Some teams, 90-man rosters, a lot of teams are carrying multiple kickers right now.
That goes into that average, you think?
Yes,
okay.
It does.
Okay.
At least in regards to the numbers that were put on social media, because it was from Spot Track. Spot Track is currently looking at all active contracts. there are 181 active running back contracts that are making the minimum or better in the NFL. Clearly, with that larger amount, there's going to be a lot of guys at the back end that are making the smaller amount of money, bringing that average down. We probably should be looking at the median of these numbers, not the average. It's not readily available.
Throwing math in here.
Yeah.
You get everything when you come to the Hallis Huddle podcast.
It's not readily available on SpotTrack. It can be done. You just got to filter it out, manually enter it in, and figure it out. It's not a big deal. Maybe I'll do that for my article. But my problem with it is wide receivers. Okay. Wide receivers, there's typically 3 legit starting wide receivers on a team. But most teams carry anywhere from 5, 6, up to 7 receivers on a team. You mentioned Austin Eckler. Austin Eckler has, 20 touchdowns in each of the last 2 years, both receiving and rushing. He tweeted out, and he didn't name who. I'm assuming it's on his team, not exactly sure, about the fact that there's a backup wide receiver making more money than he is. Seems a little ridiculous for 40 touchdowns to a guy who probably might have 1, maybe 2, maybe 0. 390. So you would think that number would also be very skewed. And it is a low number, but it's still higher than the average kicker number.
And I wouldn't think it'd be low because the top receivers are
thing.
making mega bucks.
That's the thing. So those top receivers are literally driving that number that much higher. All I'm saying is the running backs need a bigger piece of the pie.
Agreed.
And maybe what we talked about could be a way that works. Maybe there's something else that they can do. Something needs to happen, needs to change, because eventually these guys are just going to say, hey, I'm not running.
Yeah.
And then you're going to have watered down running back play, because a lot of these kids, they don't want to be running backs.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's a complicated issue. And I guess the backs who most feel they probably have something to say about this are the ones who are like, I'm not just a running back. I run
Eckler
routes.
Is a
I
perfect
catch
example.
the ball. Exactly. So
we saw it here with Matt Forte.
Right.
There was a huge, issue with him, and he had a holdout.
Yeah.
And honestly, it was well deserved that he got paid.
True. So it's a big issue. I thought we should address it, obviously, because it's the big news league-wide. But we can tie it into our segment. Should we take a break first?
Yeah, let's take a quick ad break. For those of you on YouTube, there won't be any ads, so enjoy my little beach scene that we throw there out there for you. And if you want to talk more running backs, hit us up in the comments, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We'll be back.
And welcome back. Episode 49, Hallis Huddle. I'm Justin Oniemi with Rob Schwarz. We started the episode by talking about the state of the running back position across the league, with some notable players not getting the money they feel they deserve. And so with that, as we go through each positional group on the offense and kind of look at the state of the Bears right now and compare it to last season, we are going to start with the running back room. So I don't think I have to really remind people who were the people in that room last year, but David Montgomery is no longer. So it was David Montgomery, Khalil Herbert, and Travis Epner. Am I forgetting anyone?
Tristan Ebner.
Sorry, Tristan Ebner. I don't think I have to know his name very much longer.
No, probably not.
Am I missing anyone? Because Blasingame, I guess we'll throw the fullback in there. So that was their running back room last year.
Yeah.
Big changes this year. They bring in Dante Foreman to replace David Montgomery. Khalil Herbert is a year older, hopefully has worked on some pieces of his game. They drafted Roshan Johnson, who's got a lot of promise, and signed Homer. What's his first name? Travis?
Travis.
Okay, maybe I was mixing that up. Travis Homer as like a third down back and a special team contributor.
Tristan Ebner's still on the team, too.
He is on there. But part of this, that's a good point. We're kind of projecting also our 53-man roster in a sense.
Yeah.
We're not going to announce it officially. There'll be an episode for that in the future.
Yeah. August
but I don't think he's on there. So I'm talking the room when they go to open the season. I'm
The
looking
room
at
where it happens.
I want to be in the. He wants to be in the room where it happens, but I don't think that's going to work out for him. So we're talking Foreman, Herbert, Roshan Johnson, and Homer likely with Blasingame as well, I guess.
Yep.
So what are your thoughts, Rob, comparing this year's room to last year's?
Do you want to give them letter grades? Do you want to give them like a 1 through 5 grade, just to kind of give
follow
like
your lead.
Okay, I'm gonna give it a. I'll go 1 through 10 grades, so we have like a little bit of more room to play with. Last year, I would have give the running back group a solid 7. I like David Montgomery. I like Khalil Herbert. Herbert has his flaws. I don't think he's an every down back. I just think that they were two decent backs that kind of complemented one another with the way that they played their game. And even though Montgomery didn't really fit the Luke Getsy outside zone running scheme, he played pretty well.
So I was also sitting between maybe like a 7 and an 8, but I settled on 7 because even though they led the league in rushing and I think set a Bears record for rushing, granted there's an extra game, we can't ever forget to mention that.
And Justin Fields.
But 1,000 yards was Field. Over 1,000 of that yards was Field. So running back specific, I think 7 is fair. That being said, I would give this group, without seeing what they're going to do, I'm already putting them at that 8.
I have an 8 as well.
Okay.
Because I think Donta Foreman is an equal to David Montgomery. Maybe not as elite. Not elite. Elite's a horrible word to use for David Montgomery when I'm going to talk about receiving. Not as good of a receiving back as David Montgomery. But I think Roshan Johnson just elevates that team right there from a 7 to an 8. And they could flirt with a 9, but I got to see it.
Yeah. Agreed. They're starting at an 8 for me.
Yeah.
And that's because that's a balanced room.
Yes.
I mean, at this point in time, now granted it's mid-July, so there's a lot of time to figure this out, but I couldn't even tell you who's going to be the starter. And it's not because you don't have options. In the past, there have been issues where it's like, who's going to start? We don't have any options. Here, you've got options that all look pretty decent.
I have I've been doing this all week because people have been talking about Khalil Herbert for some reason being a solid fantasy football option. And I keep telling people outside of Chicago, these national fantasy guys, slow down, because I don't even know if he's going to start the season as the RB1. And even if he does, this is going to be a true running back by committee. And that's horrible for fantasy football. You're looking at whoever has the hottest hand is going to be getting fed the rock. And if they can't block, I'm looking at you, Khalil Herbert. Kind of looking at you too, Foreman. If you can't block, you can't catch the ball out of the backfield very well, which there comes in Travis Homer. He's their receiving back.
And blocker.
I don't think any of them has the potential of being a 3-down back, except for maybe Roshan Johnson down the road, and I have my doubts on that as well.
Yeah. It's probably a position that a rookie could come in and thrive, but to put that on him, I don't think is fair. When you talk about Herbert and the national media, you look at like yards per carry, and he's, I think, number 1 in the whole league.
Yep.
So if someone sees that and goes, oh, and Montgomery left, that's all the math I need.
Right.
He's going to be top guy. You're right. I don't know that that's true. I don't think he'll get that volume.
Just like the running back versus kicker stats, salary stats, context matters.
Yes, absolutely. So we think that room has upgraded, though.
Yes,
and it was probably one of their better groups going into last season, or coming out of last season. So
how about we go with the worst group going into last season?
It's count of 3. We say what we think that one was. 1, 2, 3. Receiver. Yes.
I threw wide in there.
They were widely the worst. O-line might have had something to say.
Yeah, a little bit.
So wide receiver last year. And, we could take any point in the season. I mean, it was kind of a carousel at some point.
Yeah, it started off really bad. Got a little bit better, maybe.
By the end, I didn't even know who was on the team.
Yeah.
There might have been a Winston or 2 on there.
Yeah.
So let's go with kind of the bigger name guys. So you had Darnell Mooney.
Darnell Mooney was your number 1.
You had Claypool we'll talk about as being part of last season, but obviously he was a mid-season addition.
Equinemius St. Brown was your number 2 going into the season.
ESB. You had Dante Pettis. N'Keal Harry.
They traded for, but
Pringle. None of these guys were all together at the same time.
Wasn't even available to start the season.
I know.
Right? So,
but even if you throw those guys in there, that room.
Velus Jones.
Oh my God.
Velus Jones Jr.
I forgot.
Amir Smith Marset at one point, the guy who fumbled and cost them a win. Thank you for the first pick in the draft. You helped.
And DJ Moore to make the room better.
Yes.
Last year's receiver room, what are you giving them on a 1 to 10?
Even with the addition of Chase Claypool, and I'm not going to take injuries into consideration because injuries happen everywhere. You can't predict them. I'm giving them a 4.
I was going to say 5.
I was leaning 5.
I don't even know if you can go lower than 5.
Had Claypool been there to start the year, I'd give him a 5.
So I'm taking like the whole group at any peak point of last season was probably a 5.
Yes.
Which is not good enough.
No.
And when you have a young developing quarterback, which is certainly what you would describe Fields as last year, and I would say that's still what he is this year.
Yes.
You need better than that.
22 years old. Very young.
So you go from what we just described, a bit of a carousel of names, not many of which were that highly touted. And now you have DJ Moore, Darnell Mooney, Chase Claypool, Tyler Scott. I don't know if that's when I should throw in his name. Velus Jones. You still have ESB. Will you have Dante Pettis? I'm not sure. There's going to be some guys on that back end.
By the way, I was way wrong. Justin Fields is 24. I thought he was only 22 still.
So what do you think, Rob? Obviously, it's an upgrade in our minds, but how big of an upgrade? And will that translate to a lot more success for the Bears?
It's going to translate to at least another 3 wins, just upgrading the wide receiver group, right? And DJ Moore sets the bar very high compared to what they had last year. The fact that Chase Claypool is coming off of an offseason with Chicago, Darnell Mooney is coming off the injury, but everything looks good at this point from what we've seen on social media videos. Tyler Scott has been looking fantastic in camps. Even Velus Jones has been catching the ball better. I'm not even sure who's going to end up being the back-end roster guys at this point. I have ideas, and I could throw that out there, but we'll save that for a different episode. I'm going to put this group at a 7.
Okay. I think that's fair. Now, I just want to point out, last year was probably, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would say that was the one time that Darnell Mooney had to be your 1.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm excited that he's not your 1.
Right.
He's your 2. And with a guy like DJ Moore who can do a lot with his route running, ability to get open, he's clearly a number 1. He's going to draw the attention of defense. And I think that will open up things for Mooney to return to the type of production that had us hopeful that as a 1, he could be the leader of a room that we wouldn't rank at 5. 7 sounds about right, but just like you said with running backs, where we had them at 8, hoping for maybe 9, I'm starting the receivers at 7. It can be an 8. It can be a 9.
It could be a 9.
Claypool and Mooney are both in contract years.
Yeah.
And they have raw talent and ability. The names we were naming before last year, I mean, granted, I think we had hoped for more out of N'Keal Harry and Pringle. Those are guys who you thought, in the case of N'Keal Harry, he was a first-round draft pick.
I'll admit that I was drinking the Kool-Aid very heavily last year, looking for positives in everyone. My bear goggles were on real tight. And
now you've had to cool yourself a bit.
I have, and I feel like I'm coming into this year with a much more logical and realistic approach.
Otherwise, we would have called them an 8 right off the bat.
Oh, I would have called him a 9. DJ Moore is a wide receiver 1.
You're right.
He is, since 2018, he's a top 10 receiver in receiving yards. And that's coming off a season he didn't even break 1,000 yards.
Right.
The problem with Moore, and he showed he can do better last year with 7 touchdowns, is his touchdown numbers aren't there. But touchdowns can be fluky. And he also had 3 quarterbacks he played with last year. Hasn't had a stable quarterback really at all his career.
This could be the year for him, and we hope it is.
We've already seen the connection building between him and Fields. I think DJ Moore is going to be the Allen Robinson of Mitchell Trubisky. Like, he's going to be the security blanket, the guy that they go to. But
which helped Mooney.
But here's the thing, right? Mooney's going to be more available. Claypool should be more available.
Absolutely. So 7 with an upward arrow. Running backs were 8 with an upward arrow.
Yes.
All right. Let's go to another position that you need to depend on to catch the ball, but they do a lot more than that. Let's go to the tight end room.
So I'm going to talk something real quick about the tight end room. Actually,
his goggles are getting tight again, though.
They're getting tight. All right. So last year, okay, let's go with last year first. Okay, last year they had
Cole Kmet. Oh, okay. Really?
No.
What's the hesitation for?
I'm trying to see who the other people were because I couldn't remember.
Because all you
Cole Kmet, Ryan Griffin, which I actually did remember, Trayvon Wesco. They had Chase Allen. I'm not showing him on this list, but I know he was there probably because he was put on the practice squad. And Jake Tonges was like fullback tight end. I'm not really sure what you would category.
I put him with the tight ends.
Okay. All right. Ryan Griffin was an okay backup, but if I'm looking at that group, I'm giving him a 5.
Yeah, I mean, you can't go too much higher than that because Kmet, as much as you like him, as much as I mean, you like him even more than I do. I like him. I see the potential, but that's all it was. I mean, towards the end of the year, started to come out, and this hopefully is the year he can really step forward. But now you don't just have Kmet, you have Tonyan. That's a proven commodity in a sense. So right away, that room's better.
So when they got Chase Claypool, it opened up things for Kmet, and that's when his numbers started to just soar. And he finished the year with 7 touchdowns. He led the team. He was kind of Justin Fields' security blanket, to be honest. Is he the best receiver? No.
But he might have had the best catch of the year.
Yeah. And he's a solid all-around tight end. He plays the Y position. And he's the inline tight end. He does it all. He does the blocking, does receiving. He's not, oh God, I'm blanking on his name also. Evan Ingram, who just signed a contract. Okay, we were talking about contracts. Evan Ingram just signed a $13 million average year deal. I'm giving Cole Kmet close to that money. He's 24. He's averaging just under 500 yards per season. We saw that he can put up solid tight end or solid touchdown numbers. This year could be even a bigger year from him, depending on how Justin Fields divvies up the ball and how many passing plays they actually run.
Yeah. Well, we talked about that in our last episode. We're projecting it goes up.
For sure.
Sack should come down.
Yes.
The need for him to rush as much should go down. That opens up attempts.
My fear is that Tonyan will steal a lot of his red zone targets, and his touchdown numbers might not be as good, and then fans are going to say he's awful, just like they've been saying. He's been a top 10 tight end statistically for the last 2 years.
Okay, so like you just said, though, if Tonyan starts to steal those types of looks, that's still the room we're rating.
Yes.
So from a 5 to, I'm giving them a 7, and maybe not an upward arrow. If they can just stabilize at 7, I'm very happy with that.
I'm going to give him a 7 as well, and also just a sideways arrow.
We're pretty locked in, huh?
We are.
All right. There might be some divisiveness at some point.
I'm going to go offensive line. I think I'm going to
that's where we're going to
the offensive line is going to be a little bit different.
Okay. Well, that's where we're going next, right? Should we?
Let's just get the quarterbacks out of the way.
I thought we just saved that for the end.
All right.
Yeah. Let's go O-line.
All right. Let's go offensive tackle. We'll go outside, inside. Or you want to go inside, outside?
I was kind of thinking the whole room, but we can do it how you're saying.
I think positional.
Okay.
We break it down. Okay. So last year,
You had a rookie, Braxton Jones, on the left tackle, which is the most critical position,
Yes.
obviously, of the tackles.
Yes.
What do you think we had at right tackle?
Riley Reef.
Okay, you remembered, or you? I think Borum might have started the year as a starter. But again, we're talking about the whole unit. So you had Braxton Jones, a rookie, Riley Reef as a veteran who you signed, who didn't really work out. Larry Borum, and then who else do we want to throw in there? Leatherwood
Alex
Moore was
Leatherwood
inside
eventually, because we talked about.
But he played more guard, didn't he?
He started and then worked his way back into the inside.
Okay. This is why this group had the potential, just like receivers, to get a pretty low grade.
Yeah. Okay, so for me, I loved what I saw out of Braxton Jones as a rookie, especially coming out of the 5th round. I think he has solid potential. He needs to build up that core, get that frame a little bit better for those bull rushes. I'm giving the offensive tackle group a 4. And it's mostly because of him.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
otherwise it would be lower.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'll give them, I was going to go 5.5 just because we said.
We're throwing decimals in.
I don't know. I was going to give them a 5-ish. But honestly, what they got out of Reef was not acceptable.
No.
Especially because that was like a veteran that you expected, like, okay, at least he will know what he's doing. And it did not look great out there. So I really thought Braxton Jones had a good season. Like, at a very tough position, you're coming in as a rookie, 5th round rookie. And, there was missed plays. There was some, issues. But overall, I was pretty impressed with his play. But the O-line, gave up, 58 sacks? Something like that?
58 sacks, 55 to Justin
Fields. And some of those came inside, and we're only talking tackles right now.
Yeah.
But you can't rank them too high.
No.
So, in fact, maybe my 5.5 is the whole O-line, so they probably are a 5, because I think inside was a little bit better.
Okay. All right, well, we'll go to guard. Okay, so we'll just talk starters real quick. We got Tevin Jenkins, who wasn't the starter to begin with. It was Lucas Patrick. Okay, Lucas Patrick was that star because of that Wednesday practice, guys. Wednesday practice matters. It matters. Okay? If you don't do well on Wednesday, you're not going to do well on Thursday or Friday. You're not starting the game.
And then some other guy's going to play in and not do well on Sunday.
Oh, my God.
So
it honestly is the one thing that makes me nervous about Matt Eberflus, and I continue to have doubts because of it.
So I'm curious. Well, because you're saying you're right. Mustafa was the center.
Yes.
Patrick was a guard. Whitehair was a guard.
Whitehair. Yes.
It did not go well.
No.
So when Tevin Jenkins came in, played well, dealt with injuries again.
Yep.
Which we're not really factoring those into this.
No.
And when we're saying in the room, you're in the room. If you're injured, you're in the room.
Yeah.
Hopefully you're taking in things. You're still learning things about the scheme.
Yeah.
But the guards, again, you bring in a veteran in Patrick who was in the system with Getsy. We expected more. He dealt with some injuries as well, but we expected more.
The thumb caused him to become the guard because he was originally supposed to be the center.
You're right.
But
it was not good enough. We're hoping for better.
Yeah, so then backups, obviously, Alex Leatherwood, we mentioned, Jatir Carter, Dieter Eastland.
Another veteran, too, though, Schofield.
Oh, yeah, that's why I alluded to it, and I forgot to go to it. Is that
also
Riley Relief wasn't the only one. Max Schofield.
It also didn't go well for him. So
Michael Schofield.
So
I can't even get the name right.
I think that was even worse than the tackles.
Yes.
Jenkins was a bright spot, but didn't play.
See, here's the thing, though. To me, Jenkins has that much more potential, and Cody Whitehair was solid enough.
He didn't play well last year.
He played okay.
Really?
He played enough. He played okay.
Maybe I'm just thinking of a few particular down times.
He's showing signs of decline as he gets a little bit older, I'll be honest, but he's also trying to accommodate for a 5th-round rookie who's next to him, and Sam Mustafa and Lucas Patrick next to him on the other side. You have to be. I watched clips just today of him constantly being the guy who's looking around. Again, this reminds me of back when James Daniels was playing center and Cody Whitehair was moved away from center over to left guard, and James Daniels wasn't the one who was doing anything. He wasn't calling out mics. He wasn't calling out anything. He's just snapping the ball, causing problems. It was Cody Whitehair who was there. Cody Whitehair was the one constantly doing what needed to be done at the center position, taking charge, leadership. Well,
so we already now you just threw in the centers too.
Well,
you mentioned Mustapher, you mentioned Patrick.
Yeah. We'll just do all the.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a 5.
4. I'm giving them a 4.
I have a 5 for the guards, and I have a 3 for the centers. Sam Mustapher, your $15 million is coming back.
All right, I'm giving the whole offensive line unit last year a 5.
Okay,
and that's a friendly 5.
And
you know what? It's a 4. So we should have done them before receivers when we said the worst unit.
Yeah,
they give up 58 sacks.
Yeah, I'm giving them a.
And let's
4.
think of they give up 58 sacks. How many should have been sacks turned into Justin Fields runs?
Yes.
I mean, that one that he almost scored on the Eagles and then actually stepped out of bounds at the 6.
Now
that should have been a sack.
Now I'm going to say, and I'm sure fans, subscribers, listeners, I love your support. Please comment. I love it. There wasn't enough comments in the last one. I didn't get to talk to anybody. Talk to me. Some of those sacks were also on Justin Fields.
Okay,
but that's every quarter.
I was going to say, anytime a sack happens, it's not just on the O-line.
Correct.
Well, there are some where it's somewhere it's whoa.
Can we talk about how Sam Mustapher got a win rate on the one against the Packers? And it was literally he's like, ole, go get Justin.
I mean, I don't know the advanced metrics and stats for linemen. If it's been, that's the thing. They were actually ranked or rated kind of well because it's if you hold up for 2.5 seconds, that's considered a win.
Well, and from a run game standpoint, they were fantastic.
Right. Okay. You know what? We didn't credit that enough, I guess.
But was that because they were blocking or because Justin was running for his life? Because let's think about it.
A little bit of both. 1,000 of his yards, or 1,000 yards, a good 600 of those were
right. As much as we want to say, well, the passing numbers would have been better if Justin threw the ball on actual passing plays instead of running. That means the running numbers are coming down. So that means that line is coming down with their value, and with ESPN win rate 2.5 seconds as Justin scrambling around back there.
That shouldn't count though.
It does.
It should be 2.5 seconds in the pocket.
I agree.
Or if the pocket's moving with the design of a play, you account for that.
ESPN, fix your stats.
All right. Sorry. This was all just talking last year. So we're going to quickly talk about how we both believe, I'm putting words in your mouth now, they've upgraded.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so I'll just go through all 3 really quick. And Darnell Wright. I wasn't a Darnell Wright fan, guys. Call me out. I wasn't. Okay. Paris Johnson was my guy, but he wasn't available. He went at 6. Apparently, Darnell Wright was valued higher by Ryan Poles and his staff. I don't know if I believe it. That's what they say. Okay. I think if Paris Johnson was there, they would have had to think about it. I was Darnell Wright and Broderick Jones. Those were my 2 guys who were number 2 and 3. I had Jones slightly higher than Wright just because I felt like Jones fit the system more. But Darnell Wright's a true right tackle. That's what they wanted. Fantastic. We have never seen him play an NFL snap. It's hard to grade him. But and offensive tackles, even early first round offensive tackles struggle. We have to assume that he's going to be an upgrade.
He's an upgrade because we just talked about how bad it was last year.
Exactly.
But we haven't seen him play in the NFL. The adjustment from college to the pros is a real adjustment.
A big jump.
But he played in the SEC.
Yep.
And he played well against very good competition.
Yes.
Including Will Anderson. So we have high hopes for him.
We do.
Braxton Jones as a 5th round rookie and performed well. I want to think some of that is the coaching, which maybe we need to do an episode on the coaching rooms. But anyway, that's a throw in. We expect the tackle position to be hugely upgraded by the fact that you're adding in what you hope is a talented guy in Darnell Wright, and Braxton Jones has a year now to develop.
Yes. My only concern with development, with that type of stuff, you would think, though, as the year went on, there'd be enough tape for them to see inconsistencies and pick apart his game. So I do think that that's not going to be an issue. He's been working on his core. By the way, Braxton Jones actually said Darnell Wright is further along at this point than he was last year. So that's always a good sign.
You're talking about a top 10 pick versus a 5th round pick.
Sure, but a guy who proved himself.
Absolutely.
Right? Offensive tackle, I gave it a 4. They're a 6 with an arrow going up.
Okay. Is there any depth? That's my concern.
You've got Borum. He's shown enough to be a backup.
Okay.
You've got Alex Leatherwood. Maybe. I think he's more of a guard.
A tweener guard tackle. So the depth maybe is not what you want, but hopefully the starting tackles are a considerable upgrade from last year. Okay, guards. The big news is that it won't be Whitehair anymore. Big signing with Nate Davis, a veteran who's a proven commodity at guard. Tevin Jenkins, who we thought was the only bright spot of the previous rankings at guard. And hopefully that's much, much better than what we had last year.
Yeah.
You talked about Leatherwood as potential depth as a guard. You still have Jatir Carter, sorry.
Usually you're the one that gets the names.
I know. I'm struggling today. What do you give those?
Yeah, so
interior.
The guard position, Nate Davis instantly shoots that up. Tevin Jenkins was my top offensive lineman last year. I'm pretty sure if I recall off the top of my head that I gave them a 5 at the guard position. I'm giving them a 7 with an arrow pointing up.
Okay. 7's about right. We can't go higher than that.
I would give it an 8 had Tevin Jenkins proven he can play the left guard position. But now he's moving again.
Right.
And that makes me a little nervous.
Well, and we're going kind of back and forth because I can't think of Tevin Jenkins without thinking of injuries.
Right.
So that's why I won't go past 7. But arrow could be up.
He's married now, expecting a kid.
Nice.
He's been working on not that matters with his
You've
health.
really scouted deep, man. All right.
But he has been working specifically on ways to strengthen his neck and back area. So
swallowing peanut butter.
Swallowing. Just guzzling that stuff. If you didn't listen to the last episode, please go back and listen. Just like the first 10 minutes, you'll hear it. Okay?
So that brings us to center, which you had given a 3.
Yeah.
Probably deservedly so. But Whitehair returning to center, a position which wasn't his natural position, but one he has played. And then now I suppose you have both Patrick and Mustapher as backups.
No, Mustapher's gone.
Oh,
Doug Kramer.
That's right. He got signed by, I forget who signed him.
Pittsburgh?
Let's just assume it was the Falcons.
Maybe it might have been the Chargers.
Okay, someone else did sign him. You're right.
Him.
But Kramer, who they drafted last year and felt good about, but had to be injury all year. So you talked about how Whitehair had performed very, very well at center in the past.
Yeah, he was.
Does that mean that 3 years later he just comes back and picks it right back up again?
He's my bold prediction, if you recall.
Okay.
So
it can't be worse.
Here's the thing. I gave the center position a 3. If I'm going to compare this group just to last year's group and not the rest of the NFL, it's a 12. Okay.
Well, that's not what we're doing.
No.
I'm giving them a 6.
Okay. If we're going to compare it to the rest of the NFL, I think 6 is a good number. And I think it's just because of the doubts. Again, Whitehair's getting a little bit older. He's shown a little bit of decline in his ability to hold blocks with his base. I think it's just a little bit of a strength issue. It might be easier on him, to be honest, being center. The thing that concerns me is the snaps. It was an issue when he was the center before. Now you're coming back to it. How is it going to affect Justin Fields this year?
It was an issue with both.
It was an issue with Mustapher last year too. So I'm
giving them a 6. So I didn't keep track of exactly where we had each one, but overall, I feel there's improvement at tackle, but I'm concerned about depth. Improvement at guard, but concerned about Jenkins' ability to stay healthy and a change of position, and pretty significant improvement, we think, at center. I would give the overall unit a 6 with hopefully an upward arrow.
So we're basically at the same. So I'm only doing this because you did it, so it's not cheating. Because I feel like the depth is lacking, Otherwise, I'd give the starters a 7. But I feel like the depth is lacking. I feel like it's kind of pulling it down. I'm going to give it a 6.5.
Okay. And we're not doing defense today. And part of that's because we're still holding out hope that there's more people coming. Could that also happen with the O-line? Could they still be adding a veteran who gets cut from another team or a free agent who hasn't signed yet? That could change this a lot. Although last year's veterans were Riley Reef and Michael Schofield.
And I don't think they were signed at this point, though.
They were late additions. Yeah. And we thought that was going to be an upgrade. So maybe that would sway you from a 6.5 to a 7, but maybe they'd be flops again. So,
but if they're coming in as depth and not starters, that's a huge difference.
That's true.
These guys were brought in to start.
That's true. You're right.
And they screwed it.
Yep. You're right. All right. So that saves the number 1 position. Gotta talk about quarterback.
So last year was Justin Fields, same as this year.
Trevor Siemian,
and
Nathan
Peterman. Nathan Interceptions Peterman. Now we have Justin Fields again, PJ Walker,
Peterman,
and Nathan Peterman.
Now, I wouldn't just say we have Justin Fields and we have Justin Fields. Yes, that's his name, and he's still on the team, and he's still the critical piece of this entire offense and this entire franchise right now.
Yeah.
However, you had Justin Fields in year 2, year 1 with a new staff. Now you have Justin Fields in year 3, year 2 with the same staff and continuity of an offense, which he hasn't had, I don't even think, going back to some of his college years. I think that's a big difference even in how we just look at him. But in addition, Trevor Siemian's kind of, at the time, we thought was a good signing, and I still think he performed well when they needed him to. He is a backup quarterback, NFL caliber backup quarterback. But I have a little bit more faith in PJ Walker.
Yeah,
I would say.
Yeah, he's shown.
He's shown a little more, and I think just the type of game he can play.
He also has a DJ Moore connection.
That's true. That's absolutely true. He played a significant role with Carolina, started quite a few games, and now he's your backup, which, again, he's your backup, and you hope you don't see him. But in a 17-game season, and with Fields being a running quarterback, there is potential that you will need your backup. So I think there's a slight upgrade there. And then Peterman, the same. They did bring in another.
Yeah, so Tyson, and I never say his
agent,
name right. It's Tyson Bagent. His dad's the guy who's the arm wrestler.
Okay? And any chance he makes? Wrestler. Well, he'll probably be a practice squad.
I think he could beat out Peterman.
Okay.
I really do. I think he has a chance.
Okay.
I think it's going to come down to how well he performs in preseason. But Nathan, I like to throw lots of interceptions. Peterman is not anyone that I'm thrilled about. When your parents name you that, you're never going to amount to being a starting quarterback.
But even backup quarterbacks, they make a good living.
Mitch Trubisky.
Don't take as many hits. So what would you give them last year in that room?
Last year, also based on, like you said, Justin Fields being where he was, coming into a new system. I got to admit, I was really high on it, and now I have hindsight, and there wasn't enough passing for me. I'm going to use a little bit of the hindsight to bring my number down, and I'm going to give it a 6.
Okay. Fields was spending so much time in the running back room last year.
Well, he's a running back.
We don't actually believe that, people. Don't freeze just that part of the show and bite us with it. But 6 sounds fair. We didn't see enough, but when we rank the offensive line as low as we did, is that contributing to why they aren't developing as passers?
Who did he have to throw to also?
Yeah. So 6 is about fair, I think. Maybe people think that's too high even.
Oh, I'm sure some people do.
So this year, though, I'm not going to jump all the way up to 8 or 9 just because, but it's got to be a 7 to start. And we hope it's an upward arrow. I just got back from Vegas. I kind of am kicking myself that I didn't put in just throw a few bucks on Justin Fields for MVP. Because the odds are there. My goggles. Get them on real tight. You're putting them on? Or I thought you were going to hand them over to me.
Mm-mm.
Okay, let's hear it.
This is the only one I'm going way out on a limb, guys. This is all projection. It's projection. This quarterback room is a 9. And it's only because of Justin Fields. PJ Walker helps elevate it a little bit. I think he's a better backup, fits the mold a little bit of what they want to do here. It's a 9. Justin Fields. I said he was my number 1 quarterback in the NFC North. I can't go back on that now.
Right.
Justin Fields is going to go whoosh when it comes to this year. No one thought Jalen Hurts was going to be that guy. No one thought Tua was going to be that guy. They got somebody into that offense that helped them. The offensive line has improved. The wide receiver group has improved. The tight end group has improved. The running back room has slightly improved. Justin Fields is a 9. This offense as a whole is a 7.5 with an arrow pointing up.
I like it.
You
can go on the limb though, but I like it.
Board. Call me out. Call me out. Call me out.
The Bears offense. Well, sorry, the quarterback is just that important. But
yes.
if that's a 9, the whole offense is a 7.5. You talked about the receiver room alone being responsible for 3 more wins. If Justin Fields is playing 9 at a 9, we're talking about a team in the hunt. We're talking about a team potentially winning a weak division.
We still have to talk about the defense.
Yeah, that's true. They were record bad last year. But teaser for when we do our defense episode.
Yeah.
Some improvements have occurred on the defensive side of the ball as well.
Yeah.
Still some questions, though.
Hey, if you think Justin Fields is a 9, and you think this quarterback group is a 9, you think this offense is higher than a 7, hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification bell.
If you don't, also subscribe and make some comments. We'd love to debate about it in the comments.
We love to debate it. And you're one step closer to our giveaway, which will be announced next week.
All right.
Bear
down.
Fuck this cursor. Where the hell is it? There it is. Why is it not go? Oh, there it is. I'm leaving that in.